to another story. A suit seeking to halt the Agyapa Deal has been thrown out of the ECOWAS Community Court of Justice. A suit brought by three anti-corruption groups, the Transparency International, Ghana Integrity Initiative, and the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition against the government of Ghana, sought to challenge the propriety of the gold royalties monetization transaction arrangement. Shortly, we'll get reactions from CSOs opposed to the deal. First, let's remind you what the deal was all about. Joining us now on Zoom is Michael Body. He is fundraising manager, Ghana Integrity Initiative. Chief, I'm grateful to you for joining us here. First, remind us of what your issues were against the Agyapa Deal in the first place. Kindly unmute so we can follow what you're telling us, sir.
Sorry. Good afternoon to your viewers. I think that if there is any network that had discussed Agyapa extensively, it would be Joy. But for those who missed the discussions 2 to 3 years ago, it's all about a deal or an arrangement that the government was going to put in place. And this arrangement will seek to would seek to create or created a special purpose vehicle where majority of Ghana's gold royalties would be given to that special purpose vehicle to manage or to run.
Yeah.
The special purpose vehicle would have equity shares, and the government of Ghana would have 51% shares, and 49% of the shares will be floated on the London Stock Exchange. Now, this arrangement brings two things to mind. One, why is the Agyapa company incorporated in the Cayman Islands? Many of us will avert our minds to the many publications that were done in the WikiLeaks, the Panama Papers, about how these tax havens have been used to engage in various corrupt activities, including money laundering, illicit financial flows, etc. Therefore, for a state to incorporate an entity over there scares some of us. I mean, for now, we don't have any grounds to accuse anybody of wrongdoing, but what we are saying is that it's scary. Now, number two, our own special prosecutor, which is the first special prosecutor, Honorable Martinamidu, did a corruption risk assessment. And he pointed to the heightened risk, corruption risk areas associated with the Agyapa Deal. I believe that well-meaning Ghanaians spoke a lot about it. And we thought that we have said a lot, government is not listening. The government was going to go ahead and with the Agyapa Deal anyway, therefore, we need to use other legitimate means to stop the government. So we went to court. Lots of people have asked, why did we go to ECOWAS court? We went to ECOWAS court simply because the issues play out in many African countries, many ECOWAS countries, and therefore, we would have wished that we had ruling in our favor, so that it would serve as a precedent in all these African countries where the citizens have been shortchanged in their resource management, natural resource management.
So, I mean, what was the argument of the court in throwing out your case?
Well, the argument was very simple. The argument said, the court says we are being preemptive, which was very sad because the question one would ask ourselves that, was the court expecting us to be reactive so that the harm should be done before we go to court to seek remedy? I thought the court's ruling was very, very unfortunate. And for me, it is a step in the back of inclusive governance, participatory governance, accountability, and transparency. Because a court to tell us that we are taking a preemptive action to stop a government decision which has heightened corruption risk associated with it. The court thinks that, no, we should wait until rights are abused. Who says that? Do we wait for children, the future? I mean, one thing that people are not, the court probably did not avert its minds to is that the deal was in perpetuity. So granted that the current government has good intentions, they want to raise resources to develop this country. Do you know what the subsequent or future governments will do with such investment? I think that it's very sad. And we believe that there are still many more avenues to address this, and we will explore those avenues once the reasoning behind the ruling is published or is given to us by the court.
So it looks like more of an appeal of a sort of this ruling, right?
I think we will explore all the legal options, including even going starting a dialogue with the government again. I mean, we believe that, well, the government said previously that the parliament they were going to factor in people's concerns and bring it back to parliament. So including mobilizing people's consent and tabling it before government and see whether they will act on it or not. Or perhaps explore diplomatic options by bringing that pressure to bear on government. We believe that whatever the issues are, so long as government was well-intended, hoping that government was well-intended, when people bring perspectives to it, they will listen.
Okay. Now, in the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, we have the Public Interest Accountability Committee, PIAC, which sort of tracks the usage of the revenues that come in there. Is that something that you are considering for us to have something of a sort like that for a committee of citizens to then monitor how the Agyapa company would then utilize the revenues that will be accruing to it?
Sadly, the way the arrangement is, it takes away even that right to monitor it. Because don't forget that the government has 51% shares. The 41% share will be floated, and people, who knows who will be buying it. So even though it seems the government may have some controlling right, they don't have the absolute controlling right, because there are other partners, and that takes it away. It could be anybody from any jurisdiction. And so it takes it completely from the hands of any form of citizens' oversight. And that is what is even more scary and worrying. So we don't have the luxury of having the PIAC arrangement at all.
Okay. So what kind of arrangement would have been favorable and would have gotten the support of you, the CSOs?
Well, we believe that as we speak now, first and foremost, the company should have been incorporated in Ghana so that the laws of Ghana and citizens' oversight can be brought to bear. Secondly, I mean, we wanted a lot more transparency in the allocation of position, etc., and etc. We wanted a lot more transparency in the whole arrangement, and then the consideration of views that had been expressed by civil society, by the minority, and by all well-meaning Ghanaians. That, for us, if we had done that and we had all come to a consensus that, yes, indeed, we believe that the way to go is to have the Agyapa deal, that would have been better. That would have been laudable. As it is now, the deal smacks of a lot of incoherence, opaqueness, and we believe it won't help this country at all.
Now, if you look at the Agyapa Gold Royalties deal, government says, I want to create this Agyapa Royalties Limited to securitize future gold revenues for between $500 million and $700 million as we struggle to hold together our economy. Now, the argument is that $700 million today will not be the same value if you get it 10 years. So let's get that money and develop the country with it. Is this not a cogent argument to put across for us to say, well, let's do this, because 500 million today won't be the same in value 10 years' time?
Well, I think it's a gamble, but I would rather hasten cautiously and slowly, because the fact that the gold prices in future may also be higher than gold prices now. the dollar value in future may be higher than it is now. And who knows? Does it mean that we can't in any way develop and strengthen our country such that we may not need to borrow, or we may not need to, I mean, who knows? We may develop our country such that we can smelt the gold, develop, explore all the value chain of the gold industry so that we can add value to our gold and sell it for better value. Is that what, do we think that we can't do any better and so we are so helpless than to just sell our best rights? I think the government's argument for me is very weak.
But how does this amount to the selling of your birthright when you control majority of the shares, 51%? It means that you call the shot. Isn't that the case?
At the moment, we have 100%. Let's keep it. It's not, if you have 100%, you cannot say by getting 51%, it's good. 51 and 100 is not the same. I would want a full 100%. And I would want a whole 100% where we all have a say in its management. I want a whole 100% where it is managed prudently. We are where we are, not because we didn't manage not because the Agyapa Deal didn't go through, but it is because of some level of mismanagement of our resources. Why don't we correct our mistakes so that we add value and enhance our receipts? Why do we want to sell our future for today? And then after we consume the future, what happens to the next generation? I don't think that the way to go is the way. Look, we have hedged get fund, and we have securitized get fund. We have securitized almost all the earmark funds. Why? So what happens tomorrow? I think that we need to hasten slowly, and that's what we are saying, that the corruption risk associated with the Agyapa Deal is very high. Let us be cautious, let us think through it, and let us provide alternatives that could block the holes or that will have lesser risk, corruption risk areas, and then let's not commoditize or hedge future resources. That's all we are saying. Currently, the Agyapa Deal as we have it is not good enough.
Mr. Bodi, $50 million today is lesser than $500 million today. $500 million today will be worth more than $500 million 10 years to come. I see so that's the leg.
The assumption is that the gold value will remain, the gold prices will remain the same, and that as a country, we cannot do anything to add value to our gold in order to get more. That's the argument. Are we going to be raw material exporting country such that we are not looking at improving the value or adding value to it, the job opportunity it will create for our youth, the taxes that we will get, and then the added value that we will get in the international market? Why do we think that we will continue to export raw materials and therefore 500 million today does not have the same value as 500 million tomorrow? By tomorrow, if we do our homework well, the same quantity of gold will not be worth 500 million. It could be worth more.
Interesting. So for the CSOs, nothing will get you to support such a deal in its current state.
The only thing CSOs are asking for is that let's think through. Let's explore all the the options. Let's look at how to reduce the corruption risk area such that even if the current government is well intended, any other government that comes with who may not be well intended will not explore the gaps and the loopholes to the disadvantage of the country.
How do we deal with the corruption risk?
Well, that's what we are calling for. I mean, we cannot alone provide all the solution. We are calling for a mass discussion. We are calling for a broad-based consultation so that we can build consensus on the way forward. We think that as a CSO focused on anti-corruption, transparency is the key. Accountability is the key. Let's make the whole discourse more transparent, and let's test various options that would be suggested. And then once we we build, when we reach a consensus on a particular arrangement, we all go for it. Not what we have now.
So now that you've lost the case, what's your expectation of government? Because once you've lost it, government will probably be given, that impetus to say, let's move ahead with our plan. Is that your expectation, or you do have a different expectation of government?
Well, I believe that when the president said that they are suspending it for further consultation, he meant it. So we will explore that, but we will also explore other options once we have access to the full reasoning behind the verdict. Then we'll look at what the options are. But so long as we have opportunity to dialogue our government, we will continue to dialogue the government. We hope and pray that the government is well intended, it will listen to us, and probably look at a better options in raising resources for development than for securitizing or selling our gold royalties in perpetuity.
We've done this for more than 100 years. We've mined gold in this country for more than 100.
What do we have to show, my brother? What do we have to show? And we've mined gold for more than 100 years, and we are still exporting raw materials. Can't we do something different? That's all we're asking.
It looks like we cannot. Because after 100 years and you still exported in its raw form, it means that there's little you can do. Doesn't that occur to you?
No, I think we can. There is a lot that we can do. We just haven't averted our minds. So for us, this ruling and this whole Agyapa thing had actually brought us to the stage where we need to pull the brakes and think. As a country, as a people, Nkrumah says we can manage our own affairs. What can we do to add value? The president is talking about a 1D, 1 factory. Perhaps we need to think about, Mr. President, can we set up a gold refinery factory in the mining district so that the youth in those districts can have employment? It's an option that we can explore. But there is definitely something that we can do beyond selling, beyond giving our royalties into a company. It's a gamble. When we lose it, what happens?
Okay. So you still do have, because we've had government come in, government go. Even in the Fourth Republic, look at how many governments we've had. We have not been able to add value to our gold. But you are still optimistic that we can do this. But the two parties that have offered us leadership have not done this over the years. Where is the source of your conviction that we can do this thing, after all these years that they haven't been able to offer that to us?
I think that our source of conviction is a wake-up call the Agyapa Deal brings us. That, look, as a people, if we are not careful, we are the mineral resources will be exhausted and we have nothing to show for it. Thus, it is about time that we start thinking about what can we do, what strategies can we put forward. There are quite a good lots of research that have gone into it. Let's take them, dust them, and let's review them. We will come up with a workable solution. It starts with you and I to start talking about it. It starts with you and I to stop giving up and throwing our hands in the air and thinking that we are people who cannot do anything good. There is something good that will come from Jerusalem one of these days, and I think we need to explore. We need to start thinking. We need to start discussing. Let's not give our governments rain check. Any decision they take, we follow without interrogating the decisions. I think that has gone on for 30 years into the Fourth Republic or more, and it hasn't brought us anywhere. Now, the worst situation is that even when you give money, the safest investments in this country used to be bonds and this thing. Now, it doesn't seem to be as safe as it used to be anymore. Where is the government going to raise money to develop the country? We need to now think.
Well, whilst at it, I'm sure we've been keeping tracks on MIF as well, the Minerals Income Investment Fund. Because whilst we speak, revenues from our gold have been going in there. Do we know what's happening there as well?
Well, the last check, they had declared some surpluses and they gave some over $1 million in profit to government, which is laudable, but we need to all look at it because the myth were all part of the Agyapa scheme. Let's not forget, it was all part of the Agyapa scheme. Perhaps we need to throw the searchlights there and see what sort of investments that our monies are being used, are being put into. We need to do that. We haven't done a lot of, admittedly, we haven't done a lot of work on the myth, but I will call on experts. I am not an expert in finance, but I believe that there are quite a good number of Ghanaians who are well-meaning and well-intended, who are experts on finances. We need to put a searchlight there and keep the government or the myth accountable for the resources we're giving them.
We understand that MEF intends to invest into the discovery we've done around the Salt Pond area in lithium. They've also invested into a mining company, buying ownership of it. Are these the sort of investment that would give us the assurance that, in fact, indeed, at a point we would say, after mining gold for this number of years, this is what we have to show?
Well, like I said, I am not an expert in finance, so I would defer that to the finance people to interrogate. But okay. I work and I focus on corruption and its related matters. And I would want to wait and see whether there are the myth activities mark of any corruption, then I'll come out. But for now, let me beg the question and defer to the finance experts.
Okay, all right. Grateful to you for joining us here. He is with the Ghana Integrity Initiative. This is still The Pulse on the Joy News channel. We'll take a quick break, but still to come, Parliament has passed an amendment to the Narcotics Control Commission Act after the Supreme Court struck out the Section 43 of the law as unconstitutional. Now, that section empowers the Interior Minister to grant license to an entity to cultivate a small quantity of cannabis in Ghana for industrial and medicinal purposes. What was the focus of discussion in Parliament? When we come back, we have that discussion here for you. Stay with us.